Unmute. There we go. That'll help. Hi. Here's the Maddie. Hello, Maddie. Hi, Ina. Hi, baby. Come up and say hello to Mama and everybody else. Come on. Come up and say hello to everybody. No, she says, I'm going to sleep on my bed. Oh, what a good girl you are. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Hi, sweetie. You got your bone there. Hi, boo-boo. Good boy. Oh, how is everybody? Oh, excuse me. I decided that this week would be a good time to move my studio about, and it's been a partial success. Ah, dear. I don't know why I do it, but I did. No, I don't. I know why I did it. Let me show you what I've done. Be a good chat while we're waiting for people. So of course my camera's moved and everything. I've got to get my thing in the right place and everything. But turn that off. Save the battery. So you might remember previously my desk. I had a desk here, a small desk here, and a small desk here to this side. And in the middle here, I had a stand thing cobbled together that held my Mac. But it was about 6 inches higher than the desk. And it didn't really work because, sorry, I've just got to move this, because I can see myself in the other screen and it's distracting me because I'm out of sync with myself. There we go, that's better. Yeah, this bit was, I can move the camera. Why don't I ever remember that? All right, this bit over here wasn't actually desk. It was 6 inches higher, and it was like a stack of stuff, and it was a bit unstable. Never really liked it. So, and then this side, so this bit was desk here, and then this side here, I had that thing, which was really annoying because it was right here, and I kept banging my arm into it all the time. I was smacking my elbow into it. Very annoying. So what I did was I took the long back piece, not the top piece, because that's like twice as deep and it's way too big, but I took the long back piece off my old desk and I've put it from there to there. So now I've got a continuous piece of desk, which is a lot easier. And I've got, it's being supported on one side by this little desk here. And then I've got my other desk next to it here. So I've basically got a really big L-shaped desk. The problem is that I have, I don't know if you can see over my head, but I've created a corridor. Look at the mess I've made. But I've created a corridor, which is fine when I'm sitting here. But sitting on the sofa, it is literally like sitting at the end of a hallway. So I've got to fix that. Oh, there we go. I've moved it now. Also, these are in the way. They're annoying me. So I'm going to sort that out. What have I done now? There we go. Moves in about 12 different directions, this thing. It looks okay, but it's not practical. And it's not very nice to sit on that sofa and be sitting in a corridor. This is too long. It sticks out into the room too far. So I think what I may do is move the desk that's over here to over here, so the desk is that way around. Because then when I'm filming, I can work here, and when I'm editing, I can work here and everything. And then when I'm not, I can work on this side And instead of having a big dumping ground, which is what's happened there, see, everything just, it's already been piling up. It was empty yesterday, now it's just piling up. Sorry if I'm making you seasick, I hope not. But if I put it this side and clear all this, I think it will be a lot better. So I'll have a bigger working space that side, and then I can I can move this across and I can move this across. See, I've got a bigger working space, I've got a bigger desk, but somehow I've ended up with less working space because the whole point of it was to have, so that when I've got this up, because you know the problems I have with it, every 5 minutes I'm taking it up, I'm taking it down, I'm moving it around. I just want to be able to work on something and put it to one side, you know? And I can't. Or I couldn't, and then I could, and then now I can't again. Because I've botched it. So, what I'm going to do after the stream is I'm going to sit and think about what I actually want to do with it. I might even get a tape measure out. But I think what I really need to do is shorten the area it spreads out into the room. So if I move this desk over here and clear it off, that should help. But then, of course, I've got to clear it off. And where am I going to put anything? I don't know, because I still haven't cleared anything out. Because every time I look at anything, I'm like, well, what do I want to get rid of? I don't have that much stuff to begin with. Yeah, so I'll leave that on autofocus for a moment. So, yeah. So I'm still at the point now where I wanted to just leave that there, but I can't, because now I can't see anything. I'm going to have to move it. So I've defeated my purpose, and the only one that's happy is Maddie, because now, instead of having lots of table legs in the way, she has a massive space under the desk, where all she's got to fight against is my feet. Other than that, she can spread out the length of the radiator. She's a happy girl. But yeah, I wanted it so that I could have enough space. And now I've got space, you see now. I've got all the way 1, 2, 3 diagonals. Well, 2.5, I suppose. And 1, 2 that way on this side, and then I've got another 1.5 and 2 that way on this side. So I've got quite a big space now. In theory, apart from my drink, which I would probably knock over, if I went like that, oh, my rulers. That's the only thing I touch until I get to the tree, which is really nice to have that space, but oh yeah, made a bodge of it. Made a bodge. So, let's just wipe the bits off my tablet. Did I manage to turn it off? Oh no, there it is. It's just a bit sleepy today. I know the feeling. And clear all that off. Oh! Lots of desk space but no storage space. Well, the annoying thing is, I actually have lots of storage space. The problem is that I'm not using it efficiently. I have a... Hang on. I'll move this across. There we go. And then... Nope. There we go. That's the trouble, see, every time you move anything, you have to reset all your cameras. It's not that I don't have storage space, it's that it's not efficient storage space. I mean, I've got my cabinet, I've got my bookcase up there, but you can see the mess it's in. I mean, it's not horrendous, but it's a mess. Things get pulled off the shelves, and they never get put back. Because I like to have things within arm's reach, and I can't reach those cabinets. And then that, on that side, see this thing here? This is one like those Billy bookcase type things, but it's a 9 cube, and Some of it is, there's 5 pull-out cubes, canvas cubes, and there's 4 pull-out cubes, and there's 5 open doors. So it's really good for storage, but it's on the other side, when really it should be here. This is where I need it, so I can get to stuff, so I can put things away. I like this little arrangement, but yeah, the rest of it needs some looking at. I'm just going to start a new... Oh, actually, I wanted to keep that on there because I wanted to show you that bit. So, can you tell me, is that screen flickering as you look at it? Does it look like it's flickering to you? It shouldn't, because in theory it should be the same. Oh, it is. Is that going to be a problem? I wonder if I put the light on, will that help? It's the flicker of the screen, you see. What's going on with that now? What have I done to it? Nora! Oh, I've moved my camera. And now I don't know how I've done it. I don't want to give anybody a headache. I'm just wondering if it might be better to take a few seconds here to just set it up on screen. Although for me that might be tricky because I've never done that before and I think that would be a problem. Okay, I'll tell you what, for this one, since it's not too bad, and usually, you know, Ina's usually the one who tells me if there's something that's not going to work. She's like, no, it's not going to work. It doesn't bother me, but it's going to bother other people. She's usually the one who tells me that. So Ina seems to think it's okay for now. We'll wait and see what it's like for other people when they come in, because we usually get other people coming in at about past. And if it is a problem on the playback for anybody, then I will take the time to set it up on my monitor and figure out how to do it through my Mac for next time. But it's a lot easier for me to show you how to do it this way, because I can move the camera and show you exactly what I'm looking at. Let's just get that glare off there, that's better. It shouldn't be too bad, because in a minute we're going to open this up and then you can't see the flickering anyway. It's really only on the grey background that you can see it, so I'm hoping it won't be too bad. So let me get this focused. There we go. Save. Yeah, it is only on the grey background because it's a white flicker, but sometimes it affects people even if they can't see it. Even if they don't know there's a flicker there, it will affect people. So it should, it's supposed to be calibrated to, they're both set to 30 frames per second, but I think because my Mac drops it from 30 frames per second to 29.47 or something stupid, because obviously Apple can't do anything easily. But I think that should work. So, Autodesk Sketchbook. I put the information up earlier. That's not actually helping. Let's turn that off because it'll be easier to see the screen then. I put the information up earlier to get Autodesk. It's now completely free. I just found out when I went onto it the other day. It's cross-platform, completely free fully functioning. So I think that's what we should go with, because if you're familiar with other stuff... Oh, is it too old for the... Really? The iOS can't... The iOS can't handle Sketchbook? That's unusual, because my iPhone 5's got Sketchbook. Sketchbook is pretty universal. Oh, you've got it on the Mac? Oh, okay. The good thing about it is that because it's cross-platform, you can use it on anything. Even Windows phones can use it, which is pretty impressive. So we've got everybody covered. Oh, it's not available for iOS 9. Oh, that's weird. Maybe it's the new version that's iOS 10 plus. Anyway, you can use it on a PC and you can use it on a Mac anyway, so it's not a big deal if you can't put it on your iPad or your mobile phone or whatever. Everybody can get a version of it. And once you've got a version that you get used to and you start to look at features and you have... Oh, you got the Android version. Okay. The Android version is really good, actually. It's very fast. Once you get used to what the features are and what they do and how they work, you can open other programs like Adobe Sketch, which is 11.3 onwards. You can get, because it's a new program, it's just come out, you can get GIMP, which that's worked since Windows 95. Yeah, Photoshop Elements is pretty universal, and that's a free program. You know, the PixArt is very, very limited, but you can use it. There's ArtRage, you know, all of them have basically the same tools. And it's just what you're most comfortable with. But if we start with this is a good learning tool, and then people can branch out as they decide what they want to do. So, normally when you open it, it's got a white page here, and it will default to a white page. Because I already have something that I've done and saved, it keeps that open. So your projects stay open, which is both a good and a bad thing. It kind of annoys me that I don't have the option to close it down and start a new sketch. But then when you open it, 9 times out of 10 you want a different size than you have on there, so it's kind of pointless anyway. But anyway, you've got several areas, and it will look different on each configuration. My Mac one looks completely different to my PC one used to, but I don't know if the PC one is upgraded because I don't have a PC. So, but my Android version looks exactly like this as well. What you have here is your brush selector, and next to your brush selector you have 2 options. So when you click on a brush, so you just click on the brush, if you hover over it with your mouse, it tells you what the brush is. Oh, you can reorganise your brushes. I didn't know you could do that. So you can click and drag. Oh, that's useful because I use that one a lot. So I can put that one up there. I can click and drag that one way down there because I don't use that one. Ah! Now that I like. I didn't know you could do that. Okay. So, brushes, pencil, brush. You can get to know what these are yourself. It's not difficult. You start a clean thing, you tap on it, you pick a colour, and then you play. Okay, so you can work out what your brushes are and what they do. The top one changes. Here we go. I should set that, shouldn't I? that one is not normally on. So where have they changed? Ah, there we go. So down here you've got a little spot. If you click on that spot, you've got all sorts of things that you can use. So it takes you specifically to the last thing you used, your eraser, your colour picker, your palette, and that flips the canvas. Now that's a really useful feature, because if you're drawing something like a face, as you know, one of the things that I often say is turn your canvas upside down or swap it over and you'll be able to see where you've made errors. Well, if you just flip it like that, usually you can see straight away where there's a problem. It's also good for being able to mirror stuff and things like that. If you're doing, say, something very simple like a butterfly, you draw the butterfly on one side, you can flip it over and then draw the butterfly on the other side and then flip the first one back and you've got a matching butterfly and stuff like that. But that's actually a little bit complicated for what we're going to do, although I might use that as an exercise today because that's quite a good one. So here on your brushes, this is all your brushes, and you can load more brushes, so you can go onto the site and find more brushes. You can see I've got quite a few different texture brushes and things, and lots of different pencils and pens, because that's what I tend to use. But you can get all sorts of different brushes. There's watercolour sets and everything. You can also sign up for the newsletter, which I think it's only if you're on a computer, but the newsletter gives you the information about the new sets that come out. Like they'll get an artist to do a whole set of brushes. So you can have a comic set of brushes, or you can have a dry brush acrylic set of brushes, or a watercolour set of brushes. And it comes out every month, and you get a new one every time, and it's just a fantastic catalogue of all these different brushes and tips and tools and all sorts of stuff that you can use. But start off with what you've got to begin with. The ones I've got loaded are the basics, the legacy brushes, which is a special set that do a specific thing. It's a bit complex to get into right now. We'll just ignore those. It's a special set, okay? It does special stuff. We've got a texture set, we've got Copic sets, and we've also got Copic colours that go with that. Synthetic paints, traditional art materials, which are basics. If you want to really just, I want a pencil, that's what you want. Hard pencil. Oh, look, I can draw with a pencil now. Oh, I've got transparent colour, but obviously you want a colour, and then, okay. That's weird. Don't know why that's not working. We'll investigate in a minute. There's probably a simple reason for it. Oh, opacity's off. Okay, so these little sliders at the top here, this is the size of the brush, see? And then your opacity is here. So you can have 100% opacity, you won't see anything. Duh. One opacity, you won't see anything. 100% opacity, you should. Why is that not working? That's weird. Anyway, we'll get into it in a minute. Size of the brush, opacity, and then this little clicker, the 2 palette from down here is this, and from here you can select all your brushes. You can set specific settings, so you can decide, oh, I only want to use natural blending brushes, and I don't want to use anything bigger than that, and I want them all to have a bit of a dry brush effect, and I want them to blendable, and that'll do. And then when you're finished with that one, you can reset it. Reset the current brush settings. Current brush settings will be set to defaults. Yep, reset, back to where you started. Okay, so that's something you can play about with, find the ones that you really like the look of, all that kind of stuff. Up here, you've got your tool set. And over here, you've got your layers. Now the layers are, think of them like transparencies. So you've got a white piece of paper at the back, that's your background. So that's always the bottom one, and you always start with one basic layer. The next layer might be, for instance, your background of your journal, like I've got here. So that's my planner background. Then I've got one that is specifically for writing on, and then I've got another one which is this piece of paper. And you can clip all these together, you can have separate layers, you can work in different layers. I left this open just because I wanted to show you that. We're going to talk about it, don't worry, this is a quick overview. So all of this, you can press on a specific layer, and any particular layer you can cut, copy, paste, whatever. So as a very quick example of what I was telling you earlier, you could, for instance, duplicate that layer, so you now got a second one. You could take that layer and you could flip it. Oh no, that flips the whole canvas. That's the layer flip. Where is it? Nope, can't see it. Everything's moved about a bit. You could make that opaque, that one half transparency, and if you hide that one, then you've got a paler one. Okay. Don't worry, we're going to go through this properly in a second. I'm literally just showing you very quickly the basics, and then you can click and drag your layers to the bin up there. This top one tells you the colour of your transparency. So if you want your, let's hide this one, so we can't see that one anymore. We don't need that one, that's an empty layer. So if we take the background and change it to orange, you see the whole thing becomes orange. So now this piece of paper is sitting on top of an orange background. We can put that back to white. That's a good one if you've been, say if you've been cutting out something or erasing something, you want to see if you've got it all. Change your background, it's called green screening. You change your background to a green, which is the best colour to use. And then you can see if you need to erase anything. Oh, there's all my scribbles that were up there earlier. How weird. I must have had the wrong layer selected then. I must have had the background selected by accident and that white layer was hiding everything. Interesting. Anyway. This one, when you add a new layer, you can tell it I want it to be a specific colour. So you can add a grey, add a new layer, and then that new layer is grey. We're going to talk in depth about layers, but it is simpler than it sounds. Let me expand that so it's not flickering so much. Here are your tools, and I'll show you the very first tool we've got is the menu. So this, it can be a bit tricky. Don't mess about in here until you know what you're doing. Everything saves automatically, so you don't have to actually save your work until you want to send it out somewhere. So if you want to share it, or you want to download it, or you want to upload it to Instagram or print it or whatever, then you need to export it from the app. But while you're working on it, you never have to close it. You can have the same painting open for weeks at a time, carry on chipping away at it, and it will always just be there. Your gallery is where you open existing projects. Your share is where you export to. So you export a complete finished picture. So it's not a project that has layers and things, it's a flat picture. Preferences is where you can tweak your settings. Pen mode, now this is useful if whatever you're using doesn't have hand mode. See, I can use hand mode here. Why is my pen not working? It's so annoying. There we go. Now I can show you that. Finally. Where's my... Let's make that smaller. There we go. So if you don't have the ability to put your hand on your pad while you're moving it, so if it's not, I can't remember what it's called. It's something to do with pen priority, so it will take stylus over anything else, but you can still use your fingers to like pinch and zoom and stuff like that, which is what I do. If you don't have that, you can turn pen mode on and you can disable those gestures. So it will only accept the pen and you can't do anything with your fingers. So you can click your buttons, but you can't like physically write on your pad or anything like that with your finger accidentally. I don't use that because obviously I'm quite an advanced user. I'm used to using both, but most things will have that. Now, Procreate, I know, has an option to not only have that or the pen, it also has an auto line which allows you to draw a line like that and it turns it into a straight line. It's one of the buttons up there somewhere. And what you have to be careful with is once you've drawn your line and it's auto straightened it, you have to switch it off again, otherwise you can't write. If you need help with Procreate, go on to Everyday Awesome TV. Mimi's got all sorts of basic tutorials. But I did talk to Rob Sketcherman, who is the urban sketching king of Procreate. He is amazing. I'll leave his link. Go and look him up. He's just a fabulous artist, but he's been using Procreate exclusively for urban sketching now for years. And what he can do with it is just fabulous. He's got a class coming out, which is guaranteed to be fairly expensive, but I'm hoping to take it because I want to see if I can translate it to Samsung for him. But if you need, he said if you need basic help on how to use Procreate, get the handbook. There's a 400-page manual for Procreate that you can get that shows you exactly what everything does, and it gives you little exercises that you can work through. He said it's the best way to do it because you just look up what you need. Once you know what you want to do, you go and look it up. If you find a tool you don't know what it does, you go and look it up. Simple as that. I'd like the link to what, Ina? Sorry, I seem to have a little bit of lag. Link for Ina. Oh, well, I just said I was going to put the link up, didn't I? Hang on. Where's my notes? Where's my scribble pad? I can't find anything because I moved it all again. I annoy myself so much doing this. Whoops. Yeah, these things aren't very stable either. They keep falling over. So, Rob's Instagram. Rob's class isn't out yet, but he said he'll put it on his blog. So I'll give you the link to his blog, and I'll also put the information for the Procreate book. He didn't give me the information on it. It's just, oh, his name, Rob Sketcherman. And his name actually is Sketcherman. Because I thought it was like an alias. I thought maybe, you know, his name was Rob, but he didn't use his real surname. Sketcherman was like, you know, like I'm Claire Rhomany, but Rhomany isn't actually my name. I'm Claire Scattergood, but my name I use online is Rhomany. Because it's easier for people to remember. So I thought he'd done that, and he wasn't using his real name. And he said, no, my name actually is Sketcherman. So, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Felt a bit silly then, but of course you would assume it was a made-up name, wouldn't you? Oh, we're using our made-up names, are we? I'm Spider-Man. Right, where were we? Gallery, opening existing projects, starting new projects is new sketch, not surprisingly. Now, new sketch gives you the options, you can see here, to, whoops. Oh, you can't expand that one. I didn't know that. Here you can change, so it's got preset. It's got 1280 by 750 and 1132 by 800, which is the screen size, 1280 by 752. That's my screen resolution. So if I want it to look good on screen, that's what I use. Or if I'm doing something on screen and I want it to stay on screen, I use that. It fits the size of the screen. 132 by 800 is actually A4 landscape. If you want to be able to print it out, you need to use something like that. And obviously if you're in Americanese, then you'll need to work out what it's millimeters. So it's 1,132 millimeters by 800 millimeters is A4. So you have to look up the millimeter size for whatever it is you use over there. Letter, maybe? Half letter, I don't know. But this is where you work out, you just change it there by using your custom options. And then there's other options, which is specifically like if you're doing a web, like I use the video and film to do my thumbnails for YouTube. A web safe one, which is, it looks big on screen and it looks really detailed, but actually when you try and print it out, it's tiny. It's only this big because it saves space and it means people can't steal your work. You've got a mobile optimization, and obviously you've got your custom ones there as well. I mostly use custom A4 landscape and video and film. And the video and film has obviously your basics like 1920 by 1080, which is what I use for doing my thumbnails on YouTube because it's big stuff. If I was going to do, like this is Film 2K, 2048 by 1556, it's basically 60 frames per second instead of 30. So if you're screen recording, which you can do with this, hey, Cujo, shush. If you wanted to screen record, then you could change it to that, and it doesn't change the size of the thing on screen because you can do that, you know. Oh, I didn't switch pen mode. Oh, I did. You can do that. So it doesn't matter how big your piece of paper is. The piece of paper is all to do with how big it prints. All right? So that's that one. Then you've got the most important key, of course, which is this one, undo. Undo, 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 undo. Oh, look, I can just keep undoing all the way back to where I started. And if you go one too many, you can redo a few as well. Okay, so undo and redo, very simple, same as a computer. It's not hard to follow. Sorry about moving this about so much. I can't keep my arms still in one place while I'm doing this and see that and keep it on screen. So sorry about that, but I will keep checking back, but you'll have to deal with the fact that occasionally it'll go off screen. You also have, I think they still have, do they still have corners? Yes, they do. Okay, so all of these you can hide. All of these toolbars, if they're in the way, you click that button and it hides them all, see? You're left with your dot, which tells you, here's your corners. So you've got undo and redo. You don't even have to have those available. You just need to know that they're there. So for instance, I can undo or redo by tapping in the bottom corners. If you forget where they are, just click the button. You've also got your eraser up there, which erases the whole page. Don't use that unless you know where to find the redo button. And you've got the full screen mode, which is really handy, especially if you've been zoomed in on something like this, and then you're like, where the hell am I on my page? Tap that button and you're back to, oh, here we go. And you discover that what you've been working on is like a speck that big up there somewhere. What I'm going to do a second, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try anyway, because you know me. I'm going to see if I can extend my thing. Let me find something that will allow me to extend it a little bit. It's not going to be technical. It's going to be literally, I'm going to be doing this with a bit of sticky tape. But I'm hoping that that will make it a bit easier for you to see what I'm doing, because at the moment my big chunky hands are in the way, aren't they, a lot? So yeah, that button there, the white palette, you can see it's a white rectangle with a line, a line, and a line, which is your toolbars. 1, 2, 3. So, oh, where are my toolbars? That's it. And if you double click on any of them, it tells you what they are anyway. Rapid access to the UI. What's the UI? User interface. Tap on that. What's that? Oh, sketchbook. Oh, text. Here we go. Up comes the keyboard. So it's really simple to use. And at any time, you can just close down and click back on there, or double tap up here, and you'll be back to where you started. Okay? So have a play with that a second, because I don't want to go too far ahead with for anybody. I know some of you will be able to keep up and some of you won't. Obviously, you get to rewatch the video, especially if you're in the 15 plus tier. You get to keep the videos and watch them as much as you want. So, $15 tier gets them for 6 months, and 6 months is more than enough to learn how to do this. I'd be surprised with most of you, to be honest. I'd be very surprised if you haven't learnt it within a month, because it's really not that complicated. If you can play a game, or you can use your iPhone or whatever, you can do this. Technology is no longer as complicated as it used to appear. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for something to stick my stylus to that won't be annoying to unstick from. Let's use that. That should work. Highly technical, this bit. The sidebars are not on my phone, so I will play later on the Mac version. The sidebars on your... What phone are you using? Android, did you say? Oh, I don't think this is going to work very well, but we'll give it a try. Let me grab my iPhone, my Android. Where are you? Where my note? Because this is a tablet. Although it's an Android, it's a tablet, so it's got a different version. But my phone should have the same version, because they should all be the same now. So, while I'm doing that, let's see what this one's got on it. Autodesk. Yeah, it might just be the settings, because it's new and you've never opened it before. You might have to open something. Oh, there you go. Is that what you've got? Sidebars. Yeah. You know why? Okay, I'll show you. Because it's meant to be used in landscape mode. Oh, that's... Why has it got a exit? Screen rotation's on. Okay, come on. What are you doing? Let's try a new sketch. It might have discard. See, when I want to edit stuff and put my Bitmojis on, that's how I do it, on my phone or my tablet. Oh yeah, it looks like it's got stuck. That might be why. But yeah, if you turn it sideways, it should work. Or have you just got... Oh, they've changed it again. No, I see what it is. You've got your... Oh, this is weird. And that one doesn't work with this. Right, so what you've got here is you've got your little dot, which is your marking menu. That's your left button. That's your right button. Whoops. That's your colour picker. And then in here, you'll probably have, yeah, that's your tools. So that's your left bar. That's your pencils and pens. That's your layer on the right. And that's your tools. I would have put the tools in the middle. I think that would have made more sense. I'm not sure why it's not responding to... Tap and hold for colour picker, rotate canvas, yes. Pinch to gallery. I don't need that on, I don't use pinch to gallery. Corner shortcuts on, yes. Ah, so you can move them around as well. So that's useful. You can change them. So if you never use frame canvas to resize, then you can clear that and use last colour used or whatever. Yeah, mine's not rotating now either. I don't know why the screen isn't rotating. That's what I'm just trying to find out. Toggle full screen, swipe menu, colour wheel. Yeah. Oh, that's why it doesn't. Okay, that's clever. So you don't have to. I always do that the wrong way because I'm so used to having to film it that way because otherwise it's upside down that I've trained myself not to turn it left. But on this phone, it's better to turn it left because if you hold it like that, you keep switching it off. The reason it doesn't turn is because you can use your buttons from here. And if you want to, you can turn your canvas. And because you can now zoom in all the way on the phone, you actually don't need to turn it sideways because you can do everything you need to do that way. I would prefer to still be able to turn it sideways. I don't like the fact that you can't rotate it. That's something I'll look up. I'll see if there's a way to... See, I've got it on rotate canvas. It should... Maybe you have to have rotate canvas off to get it to rotate the whole screen. It was doing it the other day, so I don't know what they've done to it. It was working. I'll check on the help thing. Find out about that. So, Autodesk Sketchbook, phone, no rotate mode. It might be something where you have to switch your screen rotation off to be able to do it and stuff like that. There's always something weird. There's always something weird. Okay, let's see if this works a bit better now. Oh, you should be able to see a bit more easily without me. You're getting a private lesson today, Ina. I thought there'd be more people than this on a Thursday evening. Oh, excuse me. I do apologise. I don't normally do that. I actually had dinner for afternoon tea because otherwise I won't get to eat till like 9 o'clock and that's too long to go without food. So instead of having my snack at lunch, I had dinner at lunch. But I had it a little bit later than normal and then I'll have my snack later. Otherwise I'll be hungry again and have 2 dinners. Oh dear. What's it like? Anyway, back to the programme. So undo, redo. Those are your best tools. This is your selection tool. Anything that shows a square or a circle or a half circle or anything like that, this is your lasso. You'll hear a lot of people talking about the lasso. Just finished your dinner. Mine was so nice. I had that. It's really nice pasta. I'm not a big fan of ordinary white pasta, but we've got tricolor pasta here, which is white pasta with green pasta and orange pasta, all mixed up together. Oh, and it's so nice. It's just so much lighter than ordinary white pasta. I don't know what it's made of, but it's really nice. And I had garlic and tomato sauce with rosemary, and oh, it was delicious. Anyway, yeah, lasso tool is what you'll hear most people talking about. And actually, that is the one where you can pick anything on your screen to outline and move it. So, for instance, we could go right up into here, like that. It would be blurry because it's not it's not meant to be up close and personal. So a lasso tool, you can go like this, round, okay, and then with a little bit of jiggery pokery, which we won't get into just yet, you can, oh, that was silly, I clicked on it and I didn't want to click on it. Once you've selected an area, don't click out of that selected area. So I can copy what I've selected on the right layer and paste it into another layer. Where's the paste button? Okay. What's going on? Copy to clipboard. There we go. I think I didn't press it properly. And then you get a new rotation come up, and this is the same sort of stuff. What do you want to do? You can move it, and it gives you the tips here. So you can nudge it, you can resize it, you can move it about, you can nudge it to where you want it to be. Let's say I want it in this box. There you go, like that. You can flip it sideways, so flip horizontal, or you can flip vertical, but it does the whole page. So that disappeared. What it actually did was, hang on a minute, where's the, oh, I don't like these secondary menus that they've put in. We have to call that done and then reselect it. But it's not a problem, it's in its own little box now. But for instance, if the 4 cross brings up that menu, so we can go back into here and nudge that date there, move it across here, make it bigger, rotate it up that way. See, it's flipping the whole canvas. It's not just flipping. So if I put it up here, for instance, if I put it up in this corner, you'll see it better. So if I flip it vertically, it will come down here. It's like you turned the whole page over. And then if I flip it horizontally, it'll end up over here, look. Okay? So if you want it in this corner, you'd have to flip it horizontally and then flip it vertically as well. So it's a bit like printer paper when you're flipping and sliding it around, trying to work out which side you have to print on to make everything match up. So if you're not very good with that, probably stay away from those. You've also got a rotate option, which is rotate left, but it rotates around a single point. It's rotating the whole layer. It's not rotating the single thing that you're rotating. If you want to do that, then you have to do it that way, if you want to rotate it on the spot. And then this one rotates the whole layer the other way. But it is useful especially if you're doing things like grids and stuff, or if you want the same, like if you do a pattern up here, if you spend ages drawing a beautiful little pattern up here and you want to duplicate that pattern in all four corners, well, yeah, you could go around drawing over it or whatever, or you could just create 3 more layers and flip it and drag it into the next layer, or flip it and drag it into the next layer. Okay, so there's lots of different shortcuts that you could not do on paper. Mandala patterns, yes, exactly. Now on Procreate has a special mandala option. I don't think it's called mandala. It's called, I'll have to check with Mimi exactly what it's called, but it's a thing where you get a grid pattern, and when you draw in one space, it appears in an equal pattern all over the place. But I can't remember what it's called. But for a mandala pattern on this, yes, you could draw like a circle for guidance or a quarter circle for guidance, do that quarter circle, or even an eighth of a circle if you want it to be that repetitive, and redo that quarter. So literally unfold it. So you've got a quarter here, you'd flip it and you'd have a half, and then you'd flip it again and you'd have a whole. It's like unfolding a piece of paper. So yeah, mandala patterns it would be great for. So once you've got these separate things, now watch what happens if I select the wrong layer. Okay, the layer I have selected, the layer with the blue, is the one that says date. So now, oops, undo. Make sure you've got your selection tools on, and you can move that one around. Okay, if you have that one selected and you try and move that, it's not going to work because you've got this bit selected. So that's going to move around. Now, if you do that accidentally, just go, okay, done, undo, and then select the layer that you actually wanted to move. Okay. Then you've got additional, these are gradients and fills. Don't worry about those too much. They're fun to play with, but I don't really ever use these tools in the middle, but you know, you can play with them. You've got your measuring tools, which again, these are handy if you want to do mandalas. Say if you want, let's say you want a point in the middle of the canvas. So you line it up there and you draw across, and then you take your ruler this way and you draw across, and now you know exactly where the centre of your canvas is. And because you've got these layers, you could use this one layer to let's get rid of that. So I'm going to select, and you can lasso it or you can just use a rectangle and click and drag. And then you can either just delete it or you can use your eraser tool to erase it out. It's going to take a while because I've got a small eraser on, but and then once you're done, you just click back on your select tool again to get rid of it. So it's pretty simple to use, but because this is a top layer, you can hide this layer to see what's underneath, and then you can bring it back and say, okay, so I'm drawing on this layer, there's the centre, so let me change to a different colour. So click on your colour and I'll select purple. I want radiating lines coming out from the absolute centre. No particular reason, that's just what I want to draw. Okay. And then I want to have a 1/3 so that I can only have them going 1/3 out. So on this grid layer, I'll get my red back, and I'm doing things automatically without realising. In order to close down any of these menus, if you just tap on the grey background, it goes away automatically. It's so automatic that it just happens automatically and I don't even realise I'm doing it. So if at any point I do something and you think, how the hell did she do that? Just stop and ask. But yeah, tapping on the grey gets rid of, it's like the escape key. Think of it like an escape key. You can also use the escape key if you're on a computer. But let's say on this, I'm going to hide this one just to, oh no, I drew on that one, never mind. Let's say on this one I'm going to draw grid lines. So, oh, I'm going to draw 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3, and 1/3, okay? Let's say I only want these purple lines to be within that box. So now I can get my eraser, I can make it big. Oops, that takes a little bit of getting used to. Hard edge eraser. So you can see if it's a texture eraser or a hard eraser. And I could go into these areas and delete that. And you see how it's erasing the purple, but it's not erasing the red because the red is in a layer on top. I've basically put my hand underneath the tracing paper and I'm erasing the layer underneath. Notice that it also erases everything else that's there. So this is why you don't want to draw on top of other things. You always want to create a new layer, which I'm going to show you in a second. So when I bring that one back, now you can see I've got that. And then if I hide my grid lines, I've just got the pattern that I've made. Okay? So let's start a brand new piece. I'm going to click there, new sketch. I'm just going to select that one. And because this is rubbish, but the original was what I was using, I'll discard the current sketch. So when I open that one again, because I know I saved it previously, it will be where I want it to be. It will be back to the way it was when I first opened this, rather than all that scribble. So, brand new. You can change your background colour if you want to, because this is transparent. So, for instance, if you decide you want to work on a grey tone paper today, you can change it to grey. I quite often use this cream for portraits, and there's also a little, down here somewhere, there's a brown. Where's it gone? Oh no, it's in the Copic colours. Sorry, there's a brown there. That cream is really good for urban sketching. Sometimes I use this one if it's a particularly grey day. But in the Copic colours, so you can match your Copic colours to particular colours that you like. So if you have a particular colour that you really like mine is like B99, or is it B99? I can use that as my basic background colour, and I can sketch on top of it. So you could use white to sketch on top of here. And that's just by clicking between there and there. You've also got the illustration colours and the design colours. The design colours are what they call RGB colours. They are the web-safe colours. Not that there's really anything still called web-safe colours anymore, but web-safe colours are the ones that they always look good on monitors. They don't colour shift. Illustration is like all the Copics. And of course here, if you know what colours you want to use, then you can just pick. You've got a good basic set of colours, but you can also change those colours and play around with it and all sorts. So another useful thing is your colour picker. So if you custom chose, so let's click onto this one. We've got, oh, that's a nice background. I like that one. That's interesting, actually. If you custom chose a colour and you wanted to get that colour back again, then you use that colour picker to select the bit you want, and it magnifies. You can't see that at the moment, but you know, you can magnify just about anything on the screen. And then when you go back into your colour picker, it will have selected that colour. That's the colour 99 that I normally use. Just because I find it easier to see. I find it difficult to work on a white background. Sorry, I was having a moment there. I find it difficult to sketch on a white background sometimes, so I'll put a colour one underneath and then I'll change the background to white later. But the most important thing is that you don't sketch on a layer that you're already using. So here's an example of what I would do. So on a background like this, I'm going to draw a box. I would get the pencils. Now, I like the Legacy Pet set here, and you can set it in your library here to specifically, where's it gone? There we go, the pin. Pins it on here. They've moved things around a little bit. I didn't have this version before, but I like what they've done with it so far. I'm just a bit lost. But it doesn't take much to pick it up again, I promise. So you can use the little drawing pin to tell you which one you want to use. I like the Legacy set, like I said, so once you select one. So if I wanted the Copic set, you select Copic and you click the button and all your Copics come up here. It's a really handy little thing. But I like the Legacy set, so I'm going to stick with that one. So my pencil at the moment is red. How do I know it's red? Oh, because of the big red dot. Et voila. I'm going to use a white. Sorry, did I smack the camera then? I think I did. So I'm going to use a white. And I'm also going to change the look of the pencil. Now, you've got the opacity and the hardness. This is usually either the hardness or the size. This happens to be a bit of both. For guidelines, I tend to use a slightly thicker, slightly opaque pencil. So, oh, it's tricky to select that bit. I'm going to drop it down to about 40. So now if I look at my pencil, you can see here it looks different. So this is the same thing. This is the top slider and the bottom slider. So you can make it really white and opaque, or you can make it really chalky and loose. I like it somewhere in the middle, so I'm going to use about a 40. And I'm going to sketch my building. So let's say my building, I'm going to put the bottom part of the building around here. The top of the building is going to be here. I want to go, maybe I'm going to set a framework for my page, and I don't want to go outside that framework. And then we've got a building here with maybe a roof going up that way and a roof coming down, and maybe that's a corner building, and we're going to build it like that. And then we've got like a little smaller building on the side that looks a bit like a cube. And then we've got maybe a triangular building on the side here, like that, okay? And that's how I would rough out my sketch. And I might even do, we just see it's a 3-story building, so I want 3 stories there. This one's got maybe 4 stories, so let's do it that way. And it's got big double doors here. And that's how I would map out my sketch, okay? That is my layer, grid layer. Now the best thing to do with that grid layer, in the bottom left-hand corner of these boxes, can you see the little padlock? If you lock that padlock, you can't do anything with that layer. So no matter what I do to that layer now, I can't change it. So if that's my guide layer, that's what I want to do with it, so that I don't accidentally, end up clicking on it, start colouring it in, and then I'm like, oh, I'm colouring in my guide. You don't want to do that. So those little padlocks are really useful because you can lock it and then you can say, oh, I've missed a whole section up here. Oh, let's unlock that layer, go back to it here, go back to my white pencil. Maybe I've forgotten that there's a little, I don't know, maybe there's a fire escape thing up here somewhere that I want to put in. Like that. And then I can relock it again. And then I go to all the trouble of changing my pencil and everything, and etc. And for some unknown reason, I forget to change the layer, but I locked it automatically, so it doesn't matter. And you go, what the hell's happening? Oh, I didn't change the layer. Okay, so that's the first thing I would say. Always create a layer that is your basic layout. It's basically it's what you do if you were drawing on a page. Thank you. Yeah, I got terrible allergies this year. I woke up absolutely streaming this morning. It's getting better, but I think I'm going to have to pick up some allergy tablets later. Once you've got your basic grid layer, this would be on your ordinary white page where you go in with the lightest pencil and you just mark in, this is where I want to do this, and I put the tree here. So you're literally drawing like lollipop people. Well, that's what I do anyway. Like literally, here's a box, and there's a triangle, and there's a roof, and that bit's going to be about here, and there's people down here, and I'll put a tree there somewhere. And then you go in with your actual pencil sketch over the top. Or your pen sketch, in my case. I usually use a pen sketch. But my pencil sketch is for my layout. It doesn't have to be right, because you can ignore it or you can adjust it as you go. So maybe you notice afterwards, actually, these 4 windows are in the upper quarter of this building, and then there's 2 windows at the bottom that are much bigger. They're not actually all the same size. Because believe it or not, that's the kind of thing that I notice when I'm urban sketching. I will look at a building and assume that all 6 windows are the same size. And when I look back, I go, actually, those top 4 windows are the same size, but the bottom ones are twice as big. Or you notice there's a door. Or you notice there's a fire escape that you didn't even see before. You know, there's always something weird going on. But this locked layer gives you the ability to always go back and adjust it any time. So on our active layer now, and again with this I like to go in with a different colour. So I usually use a colour that I would never ever use in a painting. So if you're drawing a landscape where it's trees and stuff, you use a colour like bright orange or bright red that you would never use. If I'm drawing a building, it's very unlikely I would use bright green. So I would sketch with bright green because this is my pencil sketch now. Not my layout, my pencil sketch. Some people skip this part. I think it's a bit silly to do that. So my pencil sketch would be maybe going over this, but not necessarily. Maybe we're a bit more careful with how we go in. You know, maybe we straighten our lines a little bit. Whoops. Undo or erase. Maybe we bring that line down a little bit. Maybe we decide this building's all right. Let's go ahead and sketch that one in. Straighten the lines out a bit. So this is your sketch where you're doing it a bit more carefully, but it's not your finished sketch yet. So you would say, okay, are those buildings the same width? Actually, they are. So yes, okay, I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Make that a little bit wider. Is this perspective angle right? Is the depth of the building back right? Do I need to adjust it? And so on. So your pencil sketch is refining. Not finishing, just refining this original sketch. So instead of drawing well, we've divided that into 4, you're actually going to draw your sets of windows. So maybe on this layer, you would unlock it and say, okay, I'm actually going to draw in my white. I'm going to draw in, there's 3 windows, so I'm going to draw the guides like that and lock that layer again. And then I'll go back in with my green. And now I've got boxes to draw, or rough boxes to draw the windows in. So I could sketch my windows in. We're a little bit off. I didn't adjust my boxes entirely. But again, this is your pencil layer. You can still go in on your pen layer and say, oh, that window's off, this window's off, I need to move this around, I need to move that around. You know, oh dear, I drew this at a completely wonky angle. You can adjust that later. You can change it. You don't have to do it all right now. That's the beauty of this. You can change it. I'm just doing this basically. I don't really care. I'm just trying to get it done so I can show you. So maybe you adjust this one as well. Maybe you realise that those windows should actually be in the top half. And then these windows are much bigger at the bottom. Okay. Maybe you decide this bit is a bit too tall. It should be more like that. And the good thing is that where you used white, and this is why I like using colours, because you can always change it back later. Is there a bit I've missed? Yeah, you know what? I've missed that flipping annex again. So, I didn't want to draw this corner. I wanted to draw this bit here with this flat roof that goes off the edge of the page. And then I wanted to draw my little maybe there's railings here and this comes down and it's got steps like a ladder thing like that. And then you can use your eraser and you can come in and say, oops, hang on, always check the size of your eraser. There we go. So you can come in here and say, okay, I didn't need that bit or that bit there or that bit there, but I do need to put back in that part, and that's coming across here. And then unlock your guidelines and hide. Use the little eye in the top left hand corner. It's hard to show you, but it is there. There he is, the little eye. When the eye is crossed off, the layer is hidden. So you can leave that layer hidden if you want to. Turn it back on, turn it back off. What is wrong? What is wrong? Oh, this is supposed to be a flat roof and it looks like it's going up in the air. So, okay, let's grab our eraser. Let's readjust that line. I find it easier to take it out and put it back in again. You might find it easier to keep it in. And it should be at the same angle as this. Now this is where your ruler comes in handy, okay? Grab your ruler, set it at the angle, and now you can see, there we go. That's the angle I need. It was a little bit too far up, and now it looks a flat roof. And perhaps it's got a parapet in the front there, like that. Managed to erase that back on. Don't forget, if you need to get up close and personal, you can. But again, it's just a sketch. You don't have to have everything perfect right now. Okay, maybe this has got a little facade thing. We get that a lot on our... Oh! It saved it! So if you do that and make it really tiny, it saves it. What's going on there? There we go. It's back to where it was before now. How weird. But the layer that I was using as my guide is gone, because it saved it to the gallery as a flat image. So I've only got my background. I've got a new background now, and I've got this background thing, but that's okay. We can get rid of... Oh, the background's not going away. Okay. We can lock that and treat it as a second background. Now we've only got 2 layers we need to worry about. So now I can create a new layer, and on this one I can use my pen. So where's my dip pen? I'm going to use black because I like to use black, and I think what I'll do is change the, because I've got a white here, I can change the opacity on this, because I can't draw on this in black, you won't be able to see it, but I can change the opacity of this layer. So if I come over here, change the opacity till it's something I can live with. There you go. And now on my one that I want to draw on, I can start sketching my pen version. And again, if you want to use things like your ruler, you can set that on like that. Okay, I want that to be there. Hush a minute, Baba. Oh, that's too big. Make that quite a bit thinner. Wait a second, baby. 1 second. And then I can use that ruler to draw a straight line. I'm not that good at drawing lines. It's drawing the line for me. Because I put the ruler down, it's using a straight line. So, probably easier to do it that way round. And I find it easier actually to use the ruler with 2 fingers on here. And then you can draw your line. See, it automatically draws the line where you want it to be. Ruler. 1 second, baby, I'm coming. Like that. Ruler. It doesn't snap, you have to eyeball it. So you can still get it slightly wrong. But that's okay, because it's drawing, you would get it slightly wrong sometimes. So there's my grid lines. And oh dear, I went a bit over there, so I can erase that off, tidy it up a little bit. I can even zoom right in and tidy that up properly and redraw my line like that. Look at this corner. That bit's got a line missing, so I can swap back to my nib. Connect that corner up. 2 fingers to move around the page if you're on a mobile device, and then I can erase that section. Probably want to make my eraser a little smaller. There we go. A little bit more accurate. And then tap it and you're back to your corner. Okay? Hold that thought, have a little play. I'm going to go and let Miss Maddie out for a wee. I'm coming, Bubba. Come on. Come on then. Let's go party. Oh, she's so excited to go party. Come on then. Let's go party. Let's go party. Let's go party. Come on then. Let's go party, Miss Maddie. Let's go party. know, I hear you. Shh. It's not tea time yet, behave yourself. Not tea time yet, it's too early for tea. Oh, okay. Turn my cushion over because my bum's going flat. Behave yourself. Right, so how are we doing so far? I know this is a bit of a crash course, but don't worry, we're going to do this in more in depth. This is just to get you started with knowing your way around, you know? This is like the quick tour of the house. And then you work out where everything is afterwards. You find your own way from there, but you need to know where the stairs are and doors are and things like that. That's what we're aiming for today. So, with my pen, I'm going to start sketching in a little bit more detail on one of these buildings. I think that line is a little bit off. You'll notice that when I'm drawing with the ink pen, I'm more careful about where I put my lines. I try to keep my lines a little bit straighter. And I'm just generally drawing more carefully. That's what you do on paper when you're drawing with your pen rather than drawing with your pencil. And instead of doing sketchy lines that give you an idea of where the pencil's line's going to be, you actually decide, okay, which of these lines do I want to use? I want to use that one there. How do I want this floor to be? Now the floor, I want to put in a better guideline because I've changed this line, so I need to change that line. So I'm going to go back to my green and I'm going to decide that I want it to be, perhaps I want it to be sloping downhill a little bit. Lock that layer up again, go back to my ink layer, select my pen, go back to my black, and now I can start building in these buildings and I've got a proper line to work from. So let's say this is going to be the building here, perhaps the pavement will be along there somewhere. Perhaps this has got vines growing up it, so I'll just put those in. So just continuing on. Now, let's say I've done that bit. I'm going to just redraw. I'm just going to put in this little again, being a little bit more careful about what lines I'm putting in where. You can work fast, you can work slow, you don't have to do everything all at once, you don't have to tidy up all at the same time. That's just the way I like to work, you know. You could go in and tidy up your lines afterwards if you wanted to. I happen to like doing it like this, because otherwise I miss things. Back to my pen, put in that ladder. Maybe I decide the steps are a little bit thicker, so I thicken up the line by going over it again. maybe I decide that's not enough actually. So I go in here and I make my pen thicker. It's just like picking up a 0.7 instead of a 0.3. And then I can redraw the steps a bit thicker. There we go. Marvellous. I love that I can zoom in on things, because sometimes when I'm drawing, especially with me and my details, I get so close to the paper I give myself a headache because I need to be able to see what I'm doing. So, there are all sorts of clever tricks you can do with this as well. Like, for instance, if I wanted to, let's say this particular structure was quite complicated looking. If I wanted to, I could let me reset my pen. If I wanted to, I could select, I'm not saying go ahead and do this, I'm just saying look, this is examples of what you can do. I could select the stairway, copy it into another layer that I put underneath this one, make it an opaque layer, change the opacity to make it a translucent layer. That black will become a grey, but it will become an exact replica. What have you got then? A perfect shadow. You don't have to draw it. Which is really handy if you're doing digital work. You know, there are applications for that, like a drop shadow on a sticker or something like that. Obviously, if you're drawing, then you probably just want to draw your shadow. But when you're doing more fine detailing, there are reasons you might want to do that. Perhaps you're doing a two-headed something and you want both heads to be absolutely identical. Select one head, copy it into another layer, position them where you want them. Then merge the two layers together and you've got two heads. So that's the kind of thing you can play around with, but it's exactly the same principles as we've already been doing. You know how to use your lasso tool to select. That's what we did with the date. There's the lasso. It looks like a lasso. Select the thing that you want. Move it around. Paste it into a new layer. Click on your layers. And it gives you, you know, options to duplicate a layer or paste in a new layer, copy a layer, etc. Add your layer that you want to put it into. Go in and paste it. You can click and drag these layers around, simply like by doing that. So now the empty layer is underneath this layer. So instead of being on top by default, so let's use this and pick a different colour. Let's say I was going to spray paint this bit. Okay. That colours over those lines. Or maybe we don't want to colour over those lines. Maybe we want it to look loose and sketchy, but we don't want it to cover over the lines that we've very carefully drawn in, because that defeats the object of doing lines, right? So we can move that layer below, and now we've got our ink layer on top. It's just like going over the ink. Now we can select that layer and use our eraser tool, and we can go in and tidy it up. We can, you know, we can get this bit. Maybe this bit we want it inside because that's where, because that's the edge of the canvas. We don't want to go outside that canvas. But maybe this bit, actually, we quite like that it goes out of the thing. We just want it a little bit more soft. So by using an eraser that is a big eraser that's half the opacity, that's a very light eraser. So instead of just taking out all of that colour, now we can go in and just erase a little bit of it. So just tidy up a few little bits, you know, putting like we were doing with our, if this was our crystal ball we were doing the other day, refracted light. soft edges instead of hard edges. So there's lots of things you can do with those very few tools. And other than that, it's literally a case of just playing with the different options that are available. So I think what we'll do in future sessions is have have a set thing that we do, like we did the other day with our here's how we draw a crystal ball. Maybe we can repeat some of those lessons in digital. So you already understand the principles of it as a drawing, and now you get to concentrate on the technicalities of drawing it as a ball. But with all the extras, like, oh, well, I really like that shading and colour, but I want to finish inking in this, and that's really distracting. So let's hide that layer so we can't see it anymore, and let's go back to our ink pen in black and carry on with our outline. You know, because sometimes that's what you want to do. You can also, let's make this quite sizable. Oh, that's going to be a little bit too big. When you hover, you can see how big your dot is going to be. I want it a little bit bigger than that. There we go. A good thing about layers is that you can create a layer and merge it. Now you can't really see. Is my screen too bright now? Do I need to? Is that better? Yeah. I forgot about the camera compensating for what I'm doing. So this is your ink layer here, your colour layer that we're going to ignore for now, and then the background with the sketch on. So our ink layer, we can add another layer to that and kind of chip into it, which is really cool. It's a bit like using like if you were doing windows, you might colour them in all black and then go back in and refine them with a gel pen because they're actually white windows. That's the kind of thing you can do with an extra layer. So for instance, we could block in some of these windows. And yeah, there's a way to completely fill in the window if you've done the outline. I'm old school. I like to use the pen. But there is a thing called a paint fill. Where you can draw an outline and then fill in the blob. That window is, let's reset it to a hard eraser. That window is far too big. It goes over far too wide, so let's refine it. There we go, that's more what we want. Oh, I managed to click the button. If you've got a stylus with a button, it's got an undo feature. I should have twisted it the other way because I'm always pressing that thing. It drives me insane. Okay. What you can also do is like draw in your... A lot of this is just learning tips that you don't know you can do on digital until you try it. So you draw in roughly where your window is going to be and you colour it in. And then you see that it's a little bit too wide, so you erase it down a little bit. And it's a bit too far over, so you erase here. And then you take all three of your windows. And look, they're not lined up properly, so you line them up properly. Like that. To make them all the same height. And now that one in the middle is too far over to the left. And this is something you cannot do with paper. Select, lasso, just like you did with your date. You don't have to use the lasso, you could use the rectangle just as easily, which is just a click and drag. But I find when you're drawing, it's easier to use organic ones, which allow you to cut around the shapes freehand. I don't know why, it just feels better to do that. Now you can use your nudge And you can nudge that section. Oh, no. That's nudging the selection. Hang on. There we go. We've got to go into this version. The movement. There you go. You can move your window over a little bit. Isn't that cool? Tell me that's cool. Tell me that's cool. Here's another one you can do. You can, again, we're going to rectangle. Because who wants to redraw the same size windows over and over and over again? Is that not the most annoying thing to do? So you've got your selection. You add a layer. You keep to your selected layer. You copy your selected layer. You add a new layer. And you paste. You select your move tool. And you can now... It's annoying that you have to keep tapping it. I wish you could just click and hold and it moved. Never mind, I'll just do it that way. Oh, you can do it in the middle. Aha, there we go. So let's put that one there. Actually, I'm going to do an extra layer of windows that we didn't have before because I want to show you how cool this is. Okay, so that's done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to merge a layer. So we're going to make these two merge together. So instead of this layer with these windows and this layer with everything else, this will all be one layer. So you select the layer you created and you've got merge and you've got merge all. Never select merge all. Ever. Unless you are told to or you know what you're doing, never select merge all because you'll end up with everything flat. You don't want to do that. Not after you've created layers. Merge down. Single arrow, merge. That layer has now become one layer. Those two layers have now become one. So everything, if I hide this layer, all of those windows are on the same layer now. What that means is that I can now select, lasso, highlight, add a layer, did I copy? No. Copy, in my new layer, paste, select move, and now I've got extra windows. Look how easy that is for making these windows. And all I've got to do is make sure that that line in the middle is about the same distance as the lines of the other two. How cool is that? Office blocks. And then we do the same thing again. We click on this layer and we merge it down. And now all those windows are on the same layer. And you can keep doing that. So if you wanted to come over and you say, well, I want to draw this bit next, but I'm not quite sure if that's far enough over. I want to draw this bit before I draw this bit, but I don't know if this bit is wide enough. Well, okay, add a new layer, draw in this bit. I'm going to speed up a little bit now because you didn't take my brush back down. That is something that I do all the time. You'll get used to me doing that. There'll be an awful lot of that. Oh, I didn't swap my brush back. Oh, I'm in the wrong layer. Oh, I didn't do this. Because I'm so used to just having one pen. When you're drawing, you put your pen down and you pick up another one, or you put your pen down to pick up an eraser and put your pen down and pick up a pencil, and that tells you what you're doing. When you've always got the same pen in your hand, you forget little things like that. So let's say we're going to put this bit in here, but we don't know if this building is right yet. Let's draw this building in quick. And I'm going to draw it as a whole building. So I'm not going to draw part of the building, I'm going to draw all of the building. So there's my other building. That's going to be coloured in. Maybe this has a little doohickey on it, like that. Maybe it's got a crest of arms or something. That's quite a common thing to have. Maybe it's got little slit windows like this and like this. And perhaps it's got a big fancy door here. You know, just whatever. I'm doing the details. I'm drawing this bit of the building properly. Maybe it's got a person standing here with a, I don't know. There we go. So we've drawn that building. We love that building. We want to keep that building. But we don't know if that building's in the right place because we haven't drawn this building yet. That's okay. Hide that layer. Drop it right down to the bottom. Just ignore it. Pretend you haven't done it yet. Add your next layer, which, because I didn't click on the selected layer, it always goes in the layer above. So if you want it to be at the very top, remember to select your layer again. Now I can go in and draw this building. So let's very carefully draw in this building here, but let's change it. Let's change this building. So we have to move it. So maybe we've decided that actually this building is a little bit wider. Maybe this building comes out to here. So we draw this building in. Again, we do the whole building. You can always erase. Speaking of erasing, what the hell was that? You can always erase. As long as it's in multiple layers, it's easy to do. So then we put in our, I'm just going to grab a brush. We put in our big windows, like that. Windows. Oh, I'm doing this building so beautifully. I spent ages on this building. It looks so good. Oh yeah, I love it. Where? Fantastic. Really nice building. So now let's see if this one works. So we can unhide it. Oh, look, there's going to be an overlap. There's going to be an overlap. So, but we really like that building. Tricky. Let's merge these two layers together so that they're one layer. We only have to deal with 2 layers then instead of 3. And what I'm going to do with this layer is I am going to move Is my outline on there? My outline is on there, so that's going to mess up a little bit, but that's okay. I won't move this left line. I'm just going to select this bit that I've drawn. And then I'm going to move that bit over. Like that. So that's, let's put it about there. Yeah, that's better. First, we can reorganise these lines. So let's get rid of that bit. Ruler. Maddie, Scooby, quiet. Scooby. Pen. Yeah, I know, you're a naughty boy. Pen. Oops. Shush, I'm teaching, be quiet. Oh, it's like having kids in the house, I tell you. Draw in that line there as well. It's not perfect, but we can tidy it up later. It's fine. Now we can use this layer. We can bring that up to the top. And we can move this layer around. So let's lasso that bit and move it. Same tool again. I haven't done anything different. It's exactly the same as we did right back at the beginning with the date. Reposition it so that the bottom lines up and the top lines up. There we go. Done. Now, we don't really need 2 lines there. So I'm going to choose the line. I like the line that's on this little quirky building. So I'm going to go to this line where the big house is, and I'm going to erase the line that's there. Because I like the other line. The other line looked all right, but this line looks a bit weird. Oops, went too far. Get rid of that bit there. There we go. Now we've managed to move the entire sketch across, because the bit that we initially started to draw, we didn't like the composition of it. We realised that actually this dainty little building down here was the prettiest one, and we wanted to get that in. So we moved the whole thing across so we can fit it in. Isn't that amazing? And of course, if you want to keep your ratio, you know, all you've got to do is get your ruler. You've still got your guidelines at the back. Redraw in your black line. Pen. Put your ruler on there. So it's covering the black line. Eraser. Big eraser. Erase. Oh, we're on the wrong. I got carried away, I was on the wrong layer. So we need a smaller eraser than that. See? Oops, wrong layer. Happens a lot. Oh, interesting. It's erasing in the ruler. Ah. Okay. Sorry, I just made a discovery that I didn't know you could do. But I don't want to confuse you with extras, so I've just belay that. Just erase the bits you didn't want. And put your line back in where you do want it. I've been using this program for years, and I'm still discovering things that I did not know you can do. So don't feel that you have to learn all of it all at once, because I'm telling you, it's a long learning curve. It's like learning to draw all over again. So now what have we got? We've got our quirky little building and our blocky buildings. Are we happy with all that? Let's say yes. We've finished that bit. Merge the two layers together. We're happy with that. Let's uncover our colour layer. So let's pretend we've coloured everything in. Oh, that's out of line now. Well, that's okay. We can select, shift, move the whole. Oops. Select the right layer. Told you. Oops. Select the right layer. Select, move, shift that across. Shift that colour across to where it's supposed to be. We want it about there. Erase the bit you don't need anymore. Zoom in if you need to see exactly what you're doing. Yeah, that's close enough. Okay, now watch the magic. What we're going to do now is take away the background sketch. So the blue and green that we did, that we weren't going to keep, is going. Ta-da! We drew something cool. We drew something cool. La la la, we drew something very cool. Did we not? Now the same thing we did with our line work, we can do with our colour. So we could, for instance, let's lock this so we don't actually accidentally colour in on our layer that's just black lines. We like that layer, and we want to do, oh, let's, I want to get rid of that bit. It's annoying me. So we like that bit. Let's colour in the front of these buildings. So add a new layer, new colour layer. Let's pick, I'm going to use that brush again. I quite like that brush. Let's pick another colour. Let's say they're sandstone red brick buildings. I'm going to change the opacity down a bit because 100% opacity is usually way too much for a sketch. And then I'm going to colour in. Now we're colouring in the layer under the black lines, so we'll still be able to see anything that's in the black. So let's make our brush a tad bigger. The chisel tip brush, which works like a marker, so you see how you can build the colours up. See, you can darken the colour by going over and over and over it. Let's actually use a different brush because I didn't realise that one did that. Let's use a watercolour brush. Nice big wide brush, a little bit of opacity, and let's just, like you would go in with watercolour, perhaps you want to make this bit a bit darker. Opacity gives you the option to do that, you see. Whereas no opacity, 100%, 100% opacity, sorry, gives you a block colour. You can't darken it up. If it's already dark, you can't darken it anymore. Now earlier I was talking about doing the window frame details in like a white gel pen. So let me show you how that works. Again, I'm just, instead of trying to colour inside the lines, colour outside the lines and then erase what you don't want. Because you're working in different layers, you're not going to affect your pen lines or this bit. Oops, don't do that. Okay. So I'm happy with that. Maybe I want to put in a shadow layer. So another new layer, back to the brush. I'm going to pick a kind of a warm grey. I'm going to lower the opacity very slightly because I want to see the red through the colour. And I'm just going to put in, oops, it's slightly smaller. Oh, that's the smallest it goes, I think. Let's put in a shadow there. Not enough opacity. More opacity. Undo, lower the opacity. That's better. A bit of a shadow there. Perhaps this side of the building is also in the same shadow, so up to 100% opacity on the brush. And let's do the side of the building in that dark greyish colour. Maybe we want to do the roof in the same colour. Tidy up the bits you don't want. You don't have to do the draw outside the lines and tidy it up afterwards, but that's what I find easiest to do. I find the eraser a lot easier to control than the brushes. I don't know why, maybe it's just me. Now what we're going to do is merge our three colour layers together. So this one, and this one. So we start at the top, merge down. That gives us two layers. At the top, merge down. That gives us one layer. So now all three of those are in the same layer. I like how the thumbnail changes to show you exactly what's going on. You just have to wait for it to happen. Now let's add a new layer on top of our building here, and we're going to use a white pen. Now, a white pen is not the same as an eraser. An eraser takes off what's already there. A white pen adds white. So you don't go into your pen layer and erase it. You go into a new layer and you put white pen over the top. Okay? Once you erase something, it's not really an undo function. Whereas if you draw white pen over the top like you would with a gel pen, you can always erase it, move it, change it, whatever. So white pen over the top of our buildings, and let's say the sun's coming from that way, so let's say our... Oh, that's not white. Did that switch back on me again? Or did I forget to change it? Never mind. So you don't use your white pen for correcting mistakes. Don't get into that lazy habit. It's a bad idea. So you don't do this to get rid of that line. It's not a good idea, because if you ever get rid of this layer, that line will appear again. If you want to get rid of that line, you go to the layer that it's on and you erase that line specifically, like that. Oh, I've locked the layer. There we go. Okay, back to your white layer, back to your white pen, and we're going to draw in our... I need to get my hand close to it, but I'm trying to do it so that you can see. There we go, now you can see it. So we can do our windows. Like that. Now what I do with my colours is I put my black inks in one layer, I put my colours and shading in another layer that I gradually merge down as I've been showing you, and then I keep my white highlights in a completely separate layer. The reason I do that is that sometimes you put white highlights in and the white highlights are just a little bit too stark when you look at the overall building. So it done it again. Don't do that. There we go. So the white layers can be a little bit too stark, so I keep the white layers together. If you struggle to remember that that's a white layer, take a colour that you would never use in this context, which probably would never use yellow for this. Very rarely use yellow for urban sketching. And on that layer, put a dot in the corner so that you know that that's your white layer. You can... Oh, I've put it in a bad corner. Hang on. Because you can't actually see that layer. Because the padlock, it was in the way. Maybe put it up here somewhere so it's in the middle of the page. So put a dot so that you know that that's your white layer. That yellow dot will show up on there then. Can you see that very, very tiny yellow dot there? I can see it on screen. You'll be able to see it when you do it. So that you know that that's not just an empty layer, that's your white layer. And if you're not sure, then you go, oh, what's that yellow dot? Is that my white layer? Hide it. Yes, it is. You can also take that entire layer and change the opacity of the whole layer. So if this is too bright, overall, by the time you get to the point of finishing your sketch, your highlights are a little bit too bright. Let's drop the opacity on this layer just a bit. To about there. See? Now it's not so bright. Now it looks more like it's supposed to be there. Whereas before, it was stark white. Now it's very subtle. Let's leave it about there. And I don't change those 3 layers. So I have layers that I'm working on. If I want to colour this building, I'll come down to my colours and I'll add another layer and I'll colour on that layer. And if I want to do white on that building, I'll come up here and I'll add another layer and do the white on that building. When I'm happy with the colours on that building, I'll merge the colours into the main layer. When I'm happy with the whites on the new layer, I'll merge it down into my main white layer. But until you do that, don't merge all your layers together at the same time. I think that's more than enough to go on with for today. That is the tour of the house, basically. That is how you draw on a tablet. And what we'll do is over the next couple of months, we'll go back and we'll do something a little bit more detailed. So, I don't know, I quite like this little house. So maybe we could take this little house. I could show you how to take this little house, put it into a new sketch completely, restart it, and do it as a big sketch on its own, that tiny little house, which you can't really do when you're doing urban sketching in a sketchbook, because a sketchbook, you would have to literally redraw it from scratch. Who's got time for that? But here we can say, do you know what, I hate the rest of this sketch, but I love that little bit. You keep that little bit, put it into a new sketch, redo it, add more details because it's bigger. Have more fun with it. And then, once we've done stuff like that and you've got to grips with it, because you won't pick this all up in one go. Don't even think you're going to pick this all up in one go. You've seen me. I've been using this program for years. I've been using Photoshop since 98. It's all the same stuff. I've been doing digital stuff for a long time. 20 years. God, that sounds like a long time, but 20 years. I use digital stuff every single day because I do my screenshots, I do stuff on Instagram, I do scan adjustments, I do drawing, I do all sorts of things. I'm doing digital planning as well now. I'm doing my urban sketching. I do everything. At least once a day I do something digital. And you've seen me, even now, I sit here going, whoops, wrong layer. Whoops, haven't turned my pen on. Whoops, wrong colour. You know, don't expect to pick it up and just be, boom, I can do it. Some of you will be able to. Some of you will pick up the practicalities of finding things, and you'll know what all the tools do, and you'll be able to use them, and you'll find new stuff that I can't do. And that's great. Share it with the rest of the group. That's what the community section is for. Fantastic. I'm still learning stuff. I've learnt 2 things today that I didn't know I could do. Because the programs are always changing. Always changing. I had a completely different version yesterday. And I had to spend the evening looking at this and going, oh, I'm going to have to change this around. Because yesterday, the pads didn't look like this. They were different. And as Ina's just found out, on the computer, it's different again. And on the phone, it's different again. So, you know, you've got to learn where things are and how to do things. But the basic principles are the same. And you just go over and over and over and over it. And guess what? Drawing and painting is exactly the same. Those of you who've been in When Frogs Sing since we started in 2014, guess what? In fact, it's not even 2014, is it? We did one, didn't we do one before that? Because 2014 was the 10 sessions. 2013 was the first one, because this is year 5. Those of you who've been with me for the full 5 years, everything we've ever done is just, here's how to add layers to a page. Here's how to draw something with a pencil. Here's how to do your cross-hatching on this particular object. But every single thing you do is different. And that's why you never stop learning. You never ever stop learning to draw, and you will never stop learning how to do digital. Because I guarantee you, the day you figure out absolutely everything there is to know about this program, they'll update it and you'll have something new to play with. They'll find something else you can do with it. And if that doesn't work, guess what? you can do all this and then you can export it. So you could have just your ink pen in here. You could export your ink pen and you can open it in ArtRage and you can colour it with oil paint. Yes! You know, there is always something new to learn. Don't worry that we're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's no different to doing ordinary drawing. Yes, you're doing the same thing over and over again. You pick up your pen, you draw shapes on a page, you erase the pencil lines, you colour in the shading bits, and maybe add a bit of paint later. But that's the basics. That's the basic chain of events. Yeah, now try and draw a horse. Because you drew a crystal ball the other day, you must be able to draw a horse now, right? Nuh-uh. It don't work like that. So, yeah, have a practice. I'm going to put this lesson in the core lessons. Because this is going to be one that everybody who comes, like anybody who joins next month, is going to need this lesson. Anybody who joins in December, yes, they've missed the previous 5 months. It doesn't matter. If they watch this core lesson, they can pick up and start running and catch up the rest later. Because again, it's just like drawing. There's no set order to do things in. You just need this basic lesson of, you know, here's how you hold your pen. The other thing I would say is if you don't have a stylus for your mobile device, get one. If you have been saving, notice I say saving. If you have been saving for an Apple Pencil, but you've been umming and ahhing about it, or you can afford to get one, but you've been putting it off because you're not sure if you're going to use it, just go and get one. You will use it, okay? Even if you only use it for these sessions, you will use it. And trust me, if you find in 6 months that you're not using it as much as you thought, you can always put it on eBay. And you can pretty much guarantee to get your money back, because in 6 months, Apple will have brought out the next one and you won't be able to get the one you've got anymore, and lots of people will want it. So don't worry about that. If you've got a tablet with a built-in stylus like mine, use the built-in stylus. It is always better than an additional stylus. Always. Even if you have to MacGyver it to a ballpoint pen like this, trust me, it's the stylus that works for your tablet specifically is always the best one. If your tablet or whatever doesn't have a dedicated stylus, pop yourself down to the local market. Try out a couple of different styluses. There's always somewhere. Tracy's got a little one that's about that long. And it pulls, the end pulls off and you put it on the end and it's like a travel brush. It kind of expands. Like this. It looks like this, but then you do that with it and then there's a stylus here. So it folds out into a full-size pen, but it's a tiny little thing. And it's on a keychain and she just attaches it to her case. And then when she wants it, it's there and she just pulls it out and uses it like an ordinary pen. See what works for you. You might be better with a little tiny one. You might be better with a long one that's more like a pencil. You can get little stubby ones like these, which is what I prefer. Normally when I'm working, I prefer something short to work with. I don't like using long ones unless I'm doing it for a reason. I don't mind when I'm teaching because I work slower, but I find it very cumbersome when I'm working normally. If you are on a computer, now that's tricky. If you are just using a mouse, well, if you're using a trackpad, you're not going to have too many problems because you can use your finger and you can actually be quite accurate with a trackpad because you can zoom in and use your finger. So you can be quite accurate. If you're using a mouse, you're not going to be as accurate. But don't feel like you have to rush out and buy something to work with your thing. If you go into pretty much any cheap electronics store or, you know, Aldi supermarket or Target or wherever it is that you buy cheap electronics, you can find these kind of things where it's a tablet thing. You know, it's a pad. Let me show you in this one. It's a pad with a pen that you draw on. Now this happens to be a Wacom Bamboo. These are quite rare now, but they're super cheap. They weren't very expensive when they first came out, but they're obsolete now. And you can buy the new version for about £40. So if you've got vouchers saved up or anything like that, go and check your cheap electronics stores to see if you can pick up something cheap. Obviously, if it's within your budget, if you can afford it, etc., etc. I'm not suggesting anybody go out and buy new stuff. If you have only got access to a computer, a desktop, whether it's a Mac or a PC, it doesn't matter. If you've only got access to a desktop, these are well worth getting. If you have access to a mobile device, I suggest learning to use your mobile device, because even on something this small, it is perfectly possible to do exactly the same as I've just done on... Oh, where's it gone? Oh, it's called Autodesk on this one. It's perfectly possible to do the exact same thing I just did on that screen, on this screen. Or on this screen. I've got Autodesk on this screen as well. Now this one I have to use an extra tablet, an extra stylus, and I don't actually have one. But I can get one easily enough. They're like £3 in the supermarket. So if you have the option, use a mobile device. And what I suggest you do is, while you're working on something, if you have a lot of pop-ups on your phone or stuff like that, these are quite power hungry. I strongly suggest you set your screen to whatever is comfortable, because that white screen is quite bright, and then put your phone in flight mode while you're using this. I always do that, because if somebody rings you, you can be partway through this and the program can crash, or the call can be lost, or whatever. It can cause a lot of problems. So if you do have a lot of notifications, like some people have news notifications and all sorts popping up. I don't, but if you do, I suggest you put your phone in flight mode. And then when you want to just stop for 5 minutes and check, just close down the program, put it back off flight mode, do what you want to do, put it back into flight mode and go back to the program. Don't try and multitask unless you've got a new phone. If you've got one of the new phones, you know, if you've got an iPhone X or an iPhone 7, 8, 9 Plus, whatever it is, or, you know, the new Samsung 8 and 9, they've got multi-processors. They've got the same processors now that my computer used to have. So if your phone can handle it, by all means carry on. But if you're like me, I mean, I've got a Note 3 and an iPhone 5, and the iPhone 5 is my most recent phone. It just got 11.3, so actually it's not that old, surprisingly enough. But it is second-hand. I don't have a brand new phone. I have a tablet that's been going for 2012, I think I bought this, 2013? 2012, because the 2014 version came out 2 years later when this went out of warranty. So this thing is old and slow, but as long as I don't try and use 2 programs at the same time, this works fine. Okay? The only time that I would say start saving up to invest, if you think you're going to want to do a lot of this stuff, or if you think, you know, digital is something I could get into, because you might find that you enjoy, you might find, I just apologise to the camera. You might find that you don't really like the sketching part, but once we come to making stickers or digital planning, or you get to, you know, stuff like photoshopping photos, actually you really enjoy that, and you'd like to do that, and you'd like to be able to put pretty frames on your photos, and you want to be able to, you know, do little colour adjustments and things, and you can't really do it with your mouse. That's when you want to think, well, okay, maybe I need to start thinking about saving up for something that will work. But like I say, you don't have to go crazy. Stick with Wacom, they're really good. Go for their basic line or whatever you can afford. And in the meantime, just check out your local cheap electronics store for something that will cost you a few bucks with a coupon and will last you for, you know, a year or so until you can afford to get something decent. Or until you decide, yes, I absolutely want to invest in doing a little bit more of this, you know. It's the same principle with camera equipment. If you can get what you need in the first place, get it. And if you can't, get what you can afford and know what you need to upgrade to in the future and start saving. So, but yeah, you only really need one of these if you're going to be only using it on a computer. You don't need to get one of these if you're not going to use the computer that much, because you can do most of what you want to do on the computer with a mouse. It's just not going to be as refined. If you want to do fine art, you want to get a Wacom. Okay? That's been fun today. I've enjoyed that session. I love playing with digital stuff. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes down to it. Well, I'm a lot of a nerd. I used to teach this stuff for a living, so I'm definitely a nerd. But there's always something new to learn, and that's what I love about it. You know, last week I knew everything there was to know about that app. This week they updated it, and as you saw, there was a few things. I was like, what's that? I don't know what that does. So, you know, I'm going to have to figure out a better way of doing this, because this is going to get annoying. There we go. Right. So, yeah, if you have any questions, because I know we don't all learn at the same pace. If you have any questions, put them in the forum or write them in the thread below the video when I put the Replay Plus up. If you want me to critique your work, if you're in the alumni forum, you get free critiques. So feel free to upload your work. On Autodesk, everything saves automatically. So until we get to the point where I show you what to save and how to save it for the best options, just screenshot it and post it that way. That's the easiest way. Just take a screenshot and post the screenshot. Because I don't need the full file, I only need to see the picture, and then I can show you, you know, various different ways that you could help change it or improve it or whatever. Okay? And obviously, if you are a bit of an expert in digital sketching and you want to share some wisdom with the group, by all means do, because I love to learn new things. There's nothing better than when somebody comes along and goes, you know, I actually know how to do that a quicker way. And I go, yes, tell me how. Oh, thanks for joining me, and I will see you again very soon. Our next live session will be a week on Saturday. And we are going to have a tarot and an astrology session this month. I've missed them 2 months in a row, and it's bad. I seem to have picked up a kind of not a fear, but a mental block on doing videos or doing voiceovers for some reason. I got a bit funny about doing voiceovers. I don't know why. But we are going to have it, even if I have to do it as a live session and record it live, and it's just me and Ina here, and everybody else watches it later. I will do it that way if that's what I have to do, because we've got to have tarot and astrology this month. It's happening. Yes. Okay, I'm going to go and have a snack now and a coffee, decaf. Thanks for joining me, Ina. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I hope everybody else enjoys watching later. Apparently Thursdays are not a good day for people, so if you've got a preferred day that this 6 o'clock would work for you, let me know. I do try to do them on Saturdays, because Saturday is a much better day for everybody. But, you know, I can't suit everybody. I am going to try and do a couple earlier in the mornings, and I'm trying to do one on my Twitch stream. I'm hoping to do Wednesday mornings instead of Wednesday evenings, because Wednesday evening is killing me. Doing it after astrology, I'd rather do it a morning one. So I'm hoping to catch my Aussie girls. And I've got a couple of girls in Japan as well, which is similar time zone. So yeah, I'm hoping to do one early on a Wednesday, which would be, it would mean some of the European girls that are at work during the day would miss it and have to catch up later, but you know, that would be one here and there, rather than I have to cater them to the majority. But I don't want my Australian girls to feel left out. So anyway, I'm going to go back and try and plan my studio now. I've got to go and fix it. I broke it and I'm... Anyway, have fun. I will see you again soon. Bye.